cold. I'm only here to even a score. Whoa. My mind is set, my grind is set, my heart on ice cold. We down right now, but did it before. Whoa. See from here we going up. Made the call, I shown up. Now the game is on up. Say my name is blown up. We up, 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 we up. See from here we going up. Made the call, I shown up. Now the game is on up. Say my name is blown up. We up, 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 we up.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the United Ones podcast, episode number 4343. We are the only podcast that features a former UCF National Champion, a former UCF radio host, an ESPN analyst and hoops player, an infamous rapper, our resident influencer, and IG star, shooting the breeze, talking UCF sports. Remember to like and follow us on YouTube, IG. Check out the 70-plus teams and conferences represented on the College Huddle, which we are a part of. I actually recorded something today that is out there, so check that out. We're talking all about some of the things that we're going to be talking about tonight. So today we'll be covering a little bit of UCF recruiting, have some open questions on football. We'll be talking about UCF basketball had some recruiting news. UCF baseball had some recruiting news. And we're going to be talking a little bit about the success that we had at the NCAA National Championships with our track team. So without further ado, let me go ahead and bring in the squad. So first up, we've got Trey Neal. What's up, bro?
What's up, man? How you guys doing? I've been
pretty
missing
good
because of work.
Yeah. You're being all responsible and stuff. What's up with that? Is that your George O'Leary-isms?
All these guys are trying to do all their cases now so they don't have to do anything for the summer because all their kids want to hang out. So it should slow down, hopefully. I'm
glad that you finished that with all those cases because I think you took a breath there to think about what you were going to say next because that could have ended up on a banner on the YouTube channel because I was like, oh, where are we going with this? Where are we going with this? But glad you're here. Glad you're back with us this week. Football is going to be picking up here pretty soon. We're less than 90 days out. So excited about that. Fall camp is just on the horizon. We got some recruiting to talk about. So excited about that.
Can't wait.
All right. Let's go. All right. So outside of that, last but not least, but always last, Josh Lazar.
It's the United One podcast, so 3043, plus one to Douglas Adams' answer to everything. We're here to shoot the breeze. Check it out. My new friends, UCF Sports in 2024 has come to an end. The last night to take flight is one everybody knows. Third in the nation, All-American Ranaya Jones. Let's drop it to a fly through the tape. Time to get started. Roger, time to get the show going and keep it light. Hard charge on.
All right, let's go. Wow, he's out of breath, folks.
No, I'm not out of breath. It's just double times hard, man. Double times hard.
Well, we got to get you to the point where, you're talking like Twista on here. You know what I mean? Throw a few beats, or better yet, that new Eminem album that dropped.
Chocolate that thing, chocolate that thing. Get it out.
Oh boy, he's got to work on that, folks. He's getting a little tripped up.
It's overnight celebrity is hard. That's like almost triple time. Yeah, I'll get to it.
Yeah, we'll work you up. We'll work you up to it. You're doing 2-a-days right now. We're gonna get you into 3-a-days, so you're ready for that.
Overnight Celebrity was one of my songs that I used to sing in karaoke, and when I would, this is a while ago. It was about a decade or so ago, and when I nail that, it was good. It was really good. But you're right. I sing in my car. I used to sing a lot more than this. I rap my car sometimes, but I don't have the reps. You're right. I need to get back to it. That's why we're doing 8 instead of 16.
All right. So, obviously we don't have the full crew this week. We will get some of those folks back. Had a little funny there on the screen if you guys are watching on the YouTube. Excited to have you guys back here with us and talking a little bit of UCF football. So, we're creeping. We've been talking about schedules. We've been talking about the Big 12, who we think is going to win the Big 12, where quarterbacks are ranked, all kinds of fun stuff. But let's talk a little bit of recruiting, because this is going to gear us up for fall camp. So as we talked about last weekend, we had a pretty big weekend, or last week, we had a pretty big weekend, bounce house weekend. We didn't really want to delve too much into the deets, but there are about 7 players that we feel pretty good about. Remember, the bounce house weekend and some of these summer off-season weekends are where we bring the big time players in. So these are nothing but 4 stars and 5 stars typically. And some of the names that were here for bounce house weekend, their offer lists are extremely impressive. So I want to talk about a few of those. The first one we're going to talk about is Christian Hudson from Mainland. That's in the Daytona Beach area.
Is that what you fish from the Atlantic, Daytona?
No, yeah, pretty much. We'll leave that one alone too, because that could be another B. So Christian Hudson from Mainland. We had shark attacks up here, bro, in Santa Rosa Beach this week. So we don't want to make those kind of jokes. From Mainland, 6'1", 280-pound defensive lineman. 280 pounds, bro. And he hasn't even gone through his senior year yet. That's nuts to me. Like, when I played, and I was playing linebacker, I was playing at about 190 pounds. I can't imagine these guys at 280 pounds and trying to play against them.
You got to take off a little bit. There's a little bit of boosting going on with recruiting. The reason I know is because I think my coaches were boosting my stuff too.
How much were they boosting you?
So you get about 15. I think it's the same thing in college too. You get about 15 pounds. I know for a fact, at least. So when I was my senior year of high school, I was like 6'1.5", 6'2", 175, but I was listed, I think, at like 6'2", 6'3", 190, 195. Like, I think I get listed as that.
What? You got a little bit more. You got a little bit more than just a little bit there.
I mean, it's only 15 pounds. 170 to 190 is just 15 pounds. But in college,
just 15 pounds.
Yeah, that's nothing. That's nothing. But college, those guys get about 5 to 10 pounds too. The thing is, when you see it a lot, you can tell if a guy's like really 6'1", 280.
Y'all have to watch the scroll on this. You guys, if you're listening on podcast, you've got to watch it on YouTube, because there's a lot of little inside jokes that we drop and some nuggets we drop in there.
That inflationary that is it everywhere? Is there any place in a football team where you don't want, like, would you take someone who's legit like 400 and really needs to bulk up on a line and say he's really like 375, or you just go?
Okay, so what? So there's a threshold. I think once you get, if somebody is listed at 350, I believe they're 350. Like, once you get like 330, 340 plus, you're huge. You're like, I trust your weight there. I think they're probably saving you a few pounds. You're probably 15 pounds heavier than what they're listing. But
we got to figure out this curve. That there has to be an algorithm.
There's a happy medium. We'll figure it out. I can tell you when I hear it though. There definitely is a happy medium of
Oh my goodness! Like, I'm so glad we are at E for everyone. Because there are so many things I could have pulled out of that conversation that we're just not going to talk about. So basically, Trey said essentially that once you get to a certain height and weight, then you can pretty much believe what it is. So remember, your high school coaches are trying to get your players picked up by college coaches.
Get eyes on them. So if they check off the quote unquote measurables, that'll at least get the coaches to, I mean, obviously you have to have good tape too, but that'll at least get the coaches to come see you in person. Now, most people, unless their tape's amazing, they don't blindly just offer you. They want to see you in person. Because there is,
I mean, they'll come for a visit and they'll do some basic workouts, especially if you're borderline, your tape doesn't pop. You know, there's lots of things that they'll do. And I know we say tape because that's what it used to be, right? But your video and where people were recording, because and your huddle highlights, All of that stuff. And those guys know too, like if they're watching your huddle tape,
they know if you're good or not. Yeah.
Yeah. And they also know the size, right?
Yeah. It's just more, they really want to see it. Like if you put that you're 6'5", 225, but you don't look 6'5", 225, even if your tape's good, they're going to be like, okay, I need to come see you before. Because again, some guys will stretch, because 6'5" versus 6'2.5", that's a totally different ball game. 6'3" to 6'2", that's the same kind of, like, you can tell that's not that big of a difference. But if you say, I'm 6'5", and then you show up and I'm 6'2", 6'2.5", that's a big difference. That's a big deal. And as crazy as it sounds, there are like a height weight kind of threshold that you want to check off just because of the physicality of the game. Unless you're the exceptional Adrian Killens, Otis, those guys who are just electric, those are the exceptions. But for the most part, I mean, you look at football in general. Most of the guys that are playing at high levels, are they're bigger dudes. They're not just smaller guys. Really, the smaller guys are the anomaly. Pause.
So many pauses.
This is so good. This is
so many pauses. But like
I will say,
ahead,
there's
Josh.
fun here. I was gonna say there's fun here, but there's also reality here. Like if you are a corner and you're saying you're not 6'5", let's say you're 6'2", and you're 5'11 and a half.
That is a huge difference.
If you're 6'2" and you're really like 6'1" and like 7/8, no one's going to care that much. But with I get that. And
6'2" to 5'11" at corner is like just schematically.
Well, it's a different position. That's not a corner. That's a safety at that point.
Yeah. There's things you can do at corner at 6'2" that a 5'11" corner just cannot physically do. For example, an old school Jeremy Boykins who played at UCF. I know he might be kind of lost in the shuffle a little bit, but he was a really good corner. But he was every bit of 6'2.5", 6'3". There are things that he could do that Mike Hughes just can't because he's 6'3". But there's things that Mike Hughes can do that Jeremy can't because Jeremy's 6'3". So, like, depending on what you kind of want, depends on the kind of guys you
Well, and it depends on your defensive scheme too, right?
Exactly, so and that's where we get into the schematic. Same thing. Like some defenses. I know with Coach Shin's, we wanted more as far as D linemen. He tried not to get a lot of guys that were 6'1", 280 because they were more run stuffers. I think we had a few, but he wants guys that can take up double teams. So 6'3" plus 300 pounds, just maulers. That's just what he wanted as far as our structure of our defense. That's the kind of prototype you get for that. Then you go to Coach Shannon, and then kind of what we're in now of more of a hybrid. You want guys who you could be 6'1" and 280, 290 if you're extremely explosive, extremely fast, like a Aaron Donald type. As long as you wreak havoc, that's what you want. But it's also great if you have the Lee Hunters who are 6'5" and can wreak havoc as well. So I think it just depends on the scheme for what you want.
Well, I mean,
everywhere.
and on D line and O line, right? A lot of what you're doing is who can get on the lower center of gravity. You have the advantage depending on what you're doing, right? Depending on which position on the D line you are, but interior linemen especially. You're wanting to get leverage on that other person and who can, lower their center of gravity to the point where they're getting the leverage that they need to be able to either, get into someone and push them into the lane, right? Or push them off so they can get by them, depending on what you're doing on that particular
line. You want to have leverage of, like you're saying, two ways: either leverage to displace somebody and move them from a spot, or leverage to get in their way so that they can't get to a spot. I think that's two different types of, and it's different skill set. It's a lot of nuance to where you're watching tape. It's not just, let's look at his height, weight, speed, see what offers he has. I think that's like surface level. But once we get into, okay, like right now, Coach Roof's defense might be a little bit different in what kind of body types he wants for, his defensive backs or his linebackers, which could be why you see different kind of guys transferring that are studs, that we think are great, but he might just not fit what the style of Coach Roof wants out of his groups. And I think it's a lot of that nuance.
So two things here. One, Hughes is like 5'10-ish. And I think you said, Trey, that he was 6'3". Yeah. So Hughes, that 3 to 4.
Mike Hughes to Jeremy Boykins. Yeah. Who's like 6'2".
It's a big deal. A. And so you're saying B, Christian Hudson is probably about 255 and not 280.
Yeah. I probably think he's probably realistically like 255, 260. He probably might be 6'1", maybe 6 foot. That's not a problem. But I don't think he still 260 in high school is a big kid.
If we're recruiting him, I've got to imagine the measurables have to be there. That we're not taking.
There's role though.
But we're not taking 6'1" interior defensive lineman. 6 foot interior defensive lineman.
235. Yeah.
So I think that's where because I haven't seen his tape. I think there has to I need to watch his tape to know what kind of D line he plays like. Like, does he play stronger than his measurables? Then I could see why, because there's might be some I hate trying saying Aaron Donald, but he's the reason why guys would go for the smaller molded D lineman. He was only, I think, 6'1", 240, 250 coming out of high school, and he plays around 280. But he's a smaller D lineman. But when you're extremely explosive, when you're extremely technical, you can win a lot. Because
that's speed and technique versus someone who's trying to plug gaps, right? And
so I need to see his tape. If he's more of a run stopper, I'd be a little worried for size. If that's
I'm thinking we're going to see a lot more run stoppers, because that's been the emphasis, and we want to give the guys in the back, right, in the backfield, we want to give them opportunities on the defensive side. Now, he was rated on, these are all 247s. He was rated an 89 3-star, which is a borderline 4-star. He's the number 38 defensive lineman and number 43 athlete in the state of Florida. He's got 21 offers, including, and I only, for the purposes of this conversation, I only pulled out the P5 offers, right? So Iowa State, Maryland, Indiana, Louisville, Penn State, Pitt, West Virginia, ranked number 977. He's a good player.
You see guys like Iowa, like you're saying, Iowa, Penn State, where they recruit and churn out high level defensive linemen each and every year. I'm talking more like NFL guys, because that's what you want in college. You want to get as many NFL guys on your team as possible, because that raises your odds of being a very good team. So I think, just seeing Iowa, like you said, Iowa, Penn State, those are guys who are consistently churning out NFL defensive linemen. So something on his tape shows flashes of that. They think, okay, we can make you an NFL guy. So I think a lot of that, I think he probably is a very good player. I think there's something on tape that's wow, and I haven't even watched it. I'm just going off of what I think from some of these offers that he has. And I think that's where I would use offers to kind of gauge how good a player is. If you haven't seen the tape, look at the offers he has. If he has some of these big time ones, it's good.
Trey, just wait. There's more. Nicholas Clayton, 6'4.5", 205 edge rusher from Buckholz in Gainesville. So Gators' backyard. 26 offers. FSU, Illinois, Nebraska, Wisconsin, Duke, Georgia Tech, Houston, Kansas, Purdue, Michigan State, USC, Vandy.
Yeah, so he has some really good offers too. And that's the thing. I think there's 205 is light for an edge guy. So he's probably crazy explosive.
He's going to put some weight on, right? Because our guys, our edge rushers have been 6'2", 6'1", 235.
Yeah. He'll probably play around 240, 250. Yeah. He'll probably play around 240, 250. When he's in his peak prime college years. But I think there's, like you said, they want length and explosiveness. That's what it sounds like they want out of their guys up front. I mean, you can never go wrong with that, because you can always put on the weight eventually, develop the strength part. That's where the working out comes in. So you want to get those guys with potential, but you also want to, if you believe in what your coaches are teaching technique wise, fundamentals, things like that, you go for the guys who show the traits you can't teach. I think that's what
the traits.
Yeah, the traits you can't teach. You can't. It's hard to teach 6'4", super bendy, super explosive. It's hard to teach that. Pause.
So B. Let's talk about that though when we're talking about these star ratings, right? So one of the things that's super important when you're looking at players, and this is where the George O'Leary years and the Scott Frost years come in to play, right? These guys that are going to be 4 stars that we're going to see, they're going to be able to out-athlete anyone on the high school football field.
Exactly.
Right? It's not necessarily technique, although you have some people that focus on that. But these are athletes. These are people that are making a big difference. They usually are the top 15 to 20% athletically of the kids that are going to be in D1 football. So when you're looking at this, if these guys are 3 stars, borderline 4 stars, they're going to grow into that. And if you've got the likes of FSU, Nebraska, Wisconsin, USC in the mix, I mean, first of all, let's talk about that for a second, right? The players that we're going after, all right? We're not, and I hate to say this way, but we're not. Yeah,
we're big fishing.
Yeah, big. We're big pimping and big fishing. Big pimping on the cars that we had.
Yeah,
but and we're spending cheese too.
Yeah.
But Iowa. I'm just going to put some big names of these recruits: Iowa, Penn State, Nebraska, Wisconsin, Michigan State, USC, Bama, LSU, Georgia, FSU, Miami, Tennessee, Texas A&M, Mizzou, Arkansas, Florida, Miami, Notre Dame, Ohio State, Oregon, South Carolina, and Washington. Now, the reason I mentioned all of those names, okay, is these are the people that for all of these recruits that we're going to talk about tonight, we are recruiting against. This is not UCF of old, folks. Whether we get all of these guys now or not, right, whether we get them in the transfer portal, that's our competition. It's not Iowa State anymore for X. Like, I love X. He's a good player, whatever, but it's not Iowa State anymore, right? It's and I was talking to our Big 12 huddle host. He's an OSU guy. OSU isn't competing with us. And we were looking at the Big 12's recruiting rankings. UCF has a very unique opportunity to run the Big 12 when it comes to getting the talent in that we need. Most of these guys, and when I was talking to him, what struck me was the only people that were really getting 4 stars and 5 stars consistently were Oklahoma and Texas. Everybody else was really using 3 stars. Kansas State, OSU. OSU doesn't have an NIL budget. We were talking, one of the things he wanted to bring up today was he was talking about, I saw this thing over the weekend about Texas and Lamborghinis and all this stuff. I was like, we've been doing that for 2 or 3 years. OSU has great facilities, but has no idea how to recruit. So I feel like when it comes to our position of where we are in the state, our position within the state, meaning versus Miami, FSU, UF, etc., I feel like the coach that we have and the fact not only did we and the NIL backing and program that we've built, this was built for recruiting success. So we can, if all of the rest of those schools are not going to catch up to us on that and are in the Midwest, let's be real, we have an advantage when it comes to this kind of stuff. And I feel like in the next 2 to 3 years, it's going to really shine. We're already raising the bar. TCU has 3 4-stars. We have 2 4-stars. That's committed. You have way more that are supposedly silenced right now. You heard me talk about 7, right? I know I'm going on a rant here, but I want you to understand, looking at Arizona State right now is ranked number 1 in the Big 12 for recruiting, right? They have 2 4-stars and like 13 3-stars. We have 2 4-stars and 8 3-stars. Our average recruiting ranking is in between, is technically 3rd, should be 2nd, but Colorado's only got 3 commits. So they have 1 guy that's a 4-star and 2 3-stars. And so that guy's a really high ranking 4-star. So it's bringing that up. Yep. So this, I want people to understand, and I bring this up because who we are competing with now is not the Big 12. We are competing with the Big 10, and we're competing with the SEC for recruits right now. That's who we're That's who we're competing with. So all of these guys that you're hearing about tonight are guys that are interested in signing, and we're on another level. We may not be in the SEC or the Big 10, but you better believe that we're competing against them. Josh, I know you've wanted to say something here for a bit, so I'm just going to take a step back from the mic and let you work.
You're going to relinquish your time?
Cook. I cede my time to you, sir.
You're yelling at the recruiting cloud. Now, you are correct. You are correct. It is. There is recruiting competition within the Big 12. That is a fact. It's just a little different than it once was. And what's interesting is that we have a couple things moving this momentum forward. So one, we're in the Big 12. If we're in the MAC still, this isn't happening. Well, I'd say maybe it's happening if we have a multitude of billionaires that are paying for it, right?
Yeah, exactly.
That.
Speaking of which, we talked about that last week. Just saying.
Yeah, we did. So, I mean, not on the level, but another New York, Long Island. Like I heard that accent. That dude's from Long Island. I mean, I know. I've heard it. I've been around it my life.
According to Josh Lazar, Long Island is New York. There are no other boroughs. We established that a few weeks ago, too.
Long Island isn't a borough. Listen, small New York rant. There's 3 areas. There's upstate, there's the city, and the island. That's what New York is. And upstate is wonderful. The city is wonderful. The island is wonderful. They're all great places. They are very different. I could go on that other rant, but they're just all different. That's all it is. And it's a wonderful state altogether. Back down. So there's a couple things going for us. One, we're in the Big 12. Like we're at the seat at the table. We're getting money, right? We're getting multiple big Fox, TV slots. The TV networks think that we're going to do really well this year. Right. So we have that. We're in Florida. That does have something to do with it. People do like staying home. We're in the general area where they're at. And the other part is true, too. There's a reason why during the Bounce House weekend, we took them to Universal.
Yes.
We're going to talk about another recruit, right, who's currently in Columbia, Missouri right now. I was in Columbia, Missouri 2 weeks ago. And I get there is a difference. Like a significant difference between Orlando and Columbia. And to be fair, I actually enjoyed my time there. I enjoyed the people. I enjoyed the food. We drove by the stadium, and I enjoyed all of that. And I can understand why someone, depending on what they want to do with their life as someone who's about to go to college, football or whatever, that there's that part of it too. I can see that. I can see the SEC part. I can see that too. So I think that's a piece of the puzzle. I actually think the name, image, likeness, all this nil stuff is, I won't say significant, but is a bit of an advantage to us because I feel like we have this positive momentum. Part of it's Gus, part of it's us, part of it's Danny White and stepping back, right? Part of it's Blake Bortles. If you want to go back,
part of it is the billionaires that are now supporting UCF.
Correct. And so we have this great momentum, and I feel like being a top 25. Yeah, you were here last week, Trey. Tell me
Trey
you didn't
called
listen
himself
to the
out.
podcast from last week without telling me you didn't listen to the podcast.
Exactly, Trey. Come on, bro.
It's okay. I don't do it either if I'm not on. So,
Holy moly.
so I think nil is actually a competitive advantage for us, not as much as some others who've been doing this behind the scenes for quite some time. But now that it's more out in the open, we can actually compete openly with some of these things. So I feel like that when it comes to recruiting, I think we're competing against others in the Big 12, but I expect us to be in the top 5 in recruiting, maybe even the top 3 or number 1 in recruiting most years. And I wouldn't have said that 5 years ago.
I would say, well, hold on. Let me pause you there. Top 3, I think, needs to be the goal. Number 1.
Oh, yeah. 100%.
Number two, I think that if you look at our recruiting history in each one of the conferences that we had, every single class that we brought in after George O'Leary's initial diamond mining classes, right? Even within the context of the conferences that we were in, we were always one of the top recruiting schools in that conference. I feel that momentum continues in the Big 12. And actually, Oklahoma and Texas leaves that door open for us to be able to do that. And that's not black and gold glasses. I'm just look at the last 2 years and where our momentum is going. And the fact that some of the traditional powers that we all expected, right, to be to kind of run the conference once they left, they don't have as strong a program as we do. Now, there's something to be said that these teams have been successful for years with those 3 stars, right? There's some coaches that have done that for years. Mike Gundy is one of them, right? Mm-hmm. You talk about Kansas State, Chris Kleeman. You talk about, Lance Leopold, who is newer to Kansas, but has done this successfully over the years.
Even
Fickle was pulling in some guys towards the end.
But that was the momentum built off of the rest of it.
So I think for us, we've always lived at the top there, and I think we're finding ways and we're finding out. And I don't know who brought them in. I don't know if it's SJ Tui. I don't know if it's Terry Mohajer. I don't know if it's Gus. I don't know if it's a combination of the 3. But the one thing we've never had is the Tillman Fertitta of the world, the SMU money of the world, right? You do that, put us in the look at Miami, right?
Man.
Now, as long as we don't end up turning into Miami, which wins every offseason but loses every conference championship, right? As long as we don't do that, if we can combine those 2 things, this program, I'm telling you right now, is going to separate itself from the Big 12 very, very, very quickly. And I told you 2 years ago when we first started talking about this, the goal for UCF is not the Big 12. I love being in the Big 12. I love the schools that we're in. When I look at my schedule, I'm like, wow, that's such an awesome schedule, right?
Absolutely.
UCF's goal, because that contract's going to come up here in 3 years, is to make the next ladder up. And I think we're going to continually and consistently be successful because we've constantly striven for that and made it a priority. And we haven't had to sit on our laurels, and we've been able to do more with less. And I think that positions us best in the Big 12 going forward. Now, there's some other programs out there. Utah's one that's going to be consistently good. OSU typically they're around a 10-win team, right? Matt Campbell's got to move it or got to prove it year this year. Kansas has done good with Lance Leopold. If he stays there, they're going to be good consistently. Yep. So there's other programs that we're going to have to compete with, but we have all the advantages if we take advantage of them. All right, go ahead, Josh.
Yeah, all I was going to say is that to complete that loop, and maybe we go back to some of the other hopeful athletes coming into, or at least they came here and maybe they'll stick around. All I'll say is this: I think you are correct, and I think part of that is because of all of this momentum we've done. And this is from, Trey and the teams doing well from back in the day as athletes. That is, teachers, whatever. We help, but in all truthfulness, anyone listening to this is probably some type of supporter, fiscally or otherwise. It's the fans showing up in games. Like that 2017 season doesn't happen without us, without Danny White trusting in Scott Frost out through that 6 and 7, right? And getting more recruits in, and Frost recruiting his tail off, and some of O'Leary's stuff that was transferring through, and some audacious things, some luck in actually the play of field, and the fans showing up. It's not everything, right? But it's a significant part of it that when people say that just you wait for the space game, Arizona, right? There's a reason for that. And it's not just the uniforms on the athletes on the field. It's the entire experience. And I feel like all of this put together as a nice package is what we need to continue to build to get to where you want to go, Roger, and what you're saying.
All right. I agree with you in the sense that we've continuously been building, and this is a program that's made it a priority since John Hitt was convinced to make it a priority. Ages ago.
Yes, it was Wagner and some others from basketball to football. There were some times where there was a famous basketball game where Dr. Hitt walked out of the basketball game from his suite like 20 some odd years ago, and you can tell what the priority is, right? I love Kirk Spiro, enjoyed Donnie Jones and all the other coaches that came through and currently are here, but basketball is not a significant priority at the university. It's
becoming one.
It's growing, especially now.
And here's why: is because we've got some boosters that care.
Yes. And speaking of our thank you, Long Island-based St. John's alumni, thank you. I appreciate it. Listen, I love. See, we talked about this last week, Trey. So I'll introduce you to the last week's podcast. I grew up in New York. St. John's in the '90s was a huge deal. I'm sure for him, Mark, it was a huge deal. And that's why Patino is there. And if you want to come and take the knowledge that helped you as an individual raise billions of dollars multiple times, multiple companies, let's go. Let's have fun and try to make some great basketball product right here. I think basketball, I just renewed my tickets today. I might just pick up 2 more to see if there's any possibility of doing that. It's going to be amazing this year.
Elite 8. I told you. I keep saying it.
Well, yeah. I hope you speak it into existence. All right, going back to Nicholas Clayton, 6'4" 4.5 inches. Just to remind everyone, since we kind of went on this diatribe, 205 edge from Buckholz, 26 offers, highlighting FSU, Illinois, Nebraska, Wisconsin, Duke, Georgia Tech, Houston, Kansas, Purdue, Michigan State, USC, Vandy. Now, drum roll, please. Lamar Brown. Yeah, I don't know if that picked up because I have a directional mic, but I
heard it.
Lamar Brown.
Roger, I haven't heard of this guy.
This is who I'm extremely excited about, and we all know that Trey doesn't know who this is.
Okay.
So 6'4", 275-pound defensive lineman. However, plays both ways, offensive line and defensive line, and is ranked on both. He's from the University Lab of Baton Rouge. Now, when I read this, I'm like, man, this dude is Dexter's Laboratory. I mean, what is University Lab High School? Like, did a bunch of scientists come together? Well, did a bunch of scientists come together and start like a high school prep program? I mean, who calls themselves the University Laboratory of Baton Rouge? Baton Rouge and laboratory laboratory just don't go together for me. I don't know. However, they have put all of the things and ingredients and scientific experiments together and come out with a 4-star, borderline 5-star, who is a 5-star composite. Okay. Number 9 national, plays both offensive and defensive line, is ranked that high on both sides of the ball. Okay. 16 offers right now. Bama, Georgia, LSU, Colorado, FSU, Miami, Ole Miss, Texas A&M, USC, Houston. But okay, this is a big time recruit. And the things that are coming out of this weekend and the conversations we're had and the social media that he has put out there, let me just tell you, yes, it's still early in the recruiting season, and those are some big names that are out there that we're recruiting against. So, may not get him this cycle. Maybe it's a transfer cycle, but we're in a good position with him even now, right now. We're talking about a legitimate 5-star recruit, legitimately interested in potentially going to UCF, and seems like he's leaning our way right now. So again, we're still early in the recruiting cycle. There's a long way to go, but we're talking about our first 5-star recruit. And Trey Neal, I don't know if you remember this, but we were talking with this for a very long time with our good buddy Andrew Fagley, and about getting our first 5-star recruit and when we would get them. It may be next year. So, or this.
So here's what I'll say. I think the way we get those kind of guys, a lot of it, because I think I'm sure when he came here, he was probably like, I would have never thought UCF was like this. I feel like that's every recruit when they get here.
Still,
like you hear about it, but then it's so different when you get on campus. You see everything. You see how many people there are. Then it's like, let's go to Universal. That's not something you hear like on a recruiting visit. Like, we're going to go to Universal tonight. Like, people don't understand that kind of thing. That's a draw for a 17, 18, like those kids. I think I'm going to put myself in their shoes. I think if we can parlay on-field success, I think that's always the swinging point, in my opinion. When you're going up against the Bamas, the LSUs, all the teams you listed for top 5, 10 guys, they want to be somewhere where they're on TV and you can put me on TV so where I can ball out and see. And I'm just saying that even from 10 years ago when I was going through the whole process. What sold me with UCF? Yes, the place was awesome when I got here. But when we ended up winning all these games in the Fiesta Bowl, it's like, all right, well, they can play with anybody. I'm going to go here. And I think that's key, because if we go out there and go 6-7 or 6-6, 7-6, why? I don't understand, unless you're getting a lot of money, which then, okay, that's different. I think.
Well, and I was going to say that, right?
There are those factors too.
I think our NIL funds, our war chest has gone up a little bit even from last year.
Yeah, but the thing is, I just looked him up. He's a top 10 guy in the country. He's going to get however much money he wants from anybody. Realistically,
right?
Like Bama is going to pay up. Georgia's going to pay up. All those big time schools are going to pay. So
Bama. Okay, let me say this about that. Bama did not pay a lot of NIL. So I was reading about this. They didn't have to because they had Nick Saban. They had a football factory, right?
The new Bama is going to be Georgia. So Georgia, because I know a couple of guys from high school.
I don't know. It depends on this coach.
They're not paying. Well, Kirby Smart is there. He got one of the kids that went to my high school to take less money, and he was going to go to FSU because you're going to put me, and we're playing 15 games every year in the national championship, and you're turning guys out in the NFL. I trust you. And he was a top 10 guy in the country. He's like, I trust you to put me where I want to be ultimately versus $200,000 a year. That's not really a difference if I am trying to be a millionaire one day. And I think when you're dealing with these guys, the money now, if you go to like Texas, I know they're just loaded with money. If you tell me $3 million to come, he's probably going to go to Texas. But if the money's the same
or close,
you've got to put you have to be competing for almost what UGA is competing for. Texas.
Well, I think the difference for us is going to be this kid is a Baton Rouge kid. And who else is in Baton Rouge is LSU, right? So this is either So there's going to be, the big difference for us with this kid is whether he wants to stay home or not. I think that's going to be the biggest piece of that. All those other places that you mentioned, the risk that you run, right? If you're a 5-star or high level 4-star, is they're getting a lot of 4 stars and high level 4 stars and 5 stars, right?
Well, yeah.
So are you, and their NIL offers are year to year. They go way down the next year, right? So that's why I said too, with the caveat, with the asterisk, as we like to say, that when it comes to players like this, we're not just recruiting them for this cycle, but we're also recruiting them for future cycles, right? We've only averaged about 18 to 21 recruits so far from the high school ranks, right? And that was by design, right? But I feel like, and you saw it this year, there's going to be more roster spots, okay, that are going to be filled by high school recruits, and that's going to transition a little bit.
Yeah, and I hate to say it like UCF is a fallback in a sense because it's not. But a lot of these kids don't understand, like you said, they're recruiting 4-star, 5 stars every single season. If you do not flash year one, I'm talking about whether it's on not practice squad, but like on the scout team, you have to, at these big schools, you have to flash. There's no really development because they're like, if you don't flash year one, I'm going to go get the next 5-star in the 2027 class that will flash. So when they get all these kids, a lot of these kids get kind of phased out because of the talent. And then that's where you, like you're saying, UCF can come back. Hey, we still want you. You're going to play high level football still. So it's not like you're taking a drop off, but we're going to play you. And like, I think that's key as well. Like you're saying, like it's not just recruiting them at the high school level. It's building that relationship because every 5-star, there's most of the time there's 20 to, and then you go to high level 4 stars, there's 50 guys. They don't all play year one. Just reality of it. That's just how it goes. And sometimes things happen, or, you know, they might not be as good at Georgia, but they're so talented that we can develop them. Kirby Smart doesn't have time to develop all 80 guys on his roster. He needs to develop the 2D.
I think the main difference, Trey, on that is we're guaranteed as the Big 12 a playoff spot. Now, if the Big 12, whoever shakes out of that, right, is successful in the playoffs, I think that bodes well for the Big 12, and we might be in a better spot. I was talking with our Big 12 guy about this today. Texas and OU, I think Texas can survive if they go into the SEC and just are mediocre. OU can't. They run the risk. They've been really, really good. They run the risk of becoming Nebraska. Yeah, honestly, and it's not disparity. That's not disparity. Disparaging OU. They put a ton of money in facilities. They got a great program. They're a Jordan school. All these great things, right? They almost lost to us last year. They should have lost to us last year, right?
They weren't that great. Like Auburn. They would be in the kind of what Auburn is in the SEC. I can see them being that. I don't think
Oklahoma brand can survive that.
I don't either. I think Texas is just their pipeline of players is so deep. They will always have a above float team. Even and then the money that they're putting in, they will be like quote unquote the LSU kind of brand. I think they could be as high as, you know, they could go and dominate in the SEC. They could get to that peak, but I think they will probably be around.
But they haven't since 2010 in the Big 12.
No, yeah, they haven't. But I think as just brand recognition, like I think kids will go to Texas just off of that. I don't think that like you're saying with Oklahoma. I don't think Oklahoma's like that. I think Oklahoma has to compete.
It's a big school and it's a big school in a big state, right? Yeah. Whereas Oklahoma is a big school in a very small state. The population of Oklahoma is around the same as Orlando Metro. And that's not good for a brand if you don't consistently win. Yeah, it's the exact same thing as Nebraska.
I don't know if y'all have been to Austin, but that place is insane. Like it's
love Austin.
I remember when I went, I was like, I see why kids come here. And then you go see the state. Like I'm like, I see why kids come here. Now you're adding, because I think another kid from my high school transferred from Alabama to Texas. They have so much money going to their players. If you are good, it's ridiculous. And that's something that is hard to compete with.
Here's the other part of that, right? So one of the things we talked about in the last couple of shows was the fact that there's a salary cap now based on TV revenue.
That's huge.
Right? So for someone like FSU or someone like Texas or whatever, right? It's 20% of what they bring in their media revenue. That's the cap.
That's the salary cap?
That's the salary cap, right?
Okay.
So that means that the Big Ten has the biggest advantage because they make the most money. The SEC has an advantage, and then there's us because of our media revenue, right?
Mm-hmm.
But at the end of the day, that plus the NIL means they have the most money. Now, are they going to be the Cowboys and the 49ers who have not won anything since the salary cap has been put in place? I don't know. Texas hasn't done anything since 2010. But I think the brand, and because the population size of the state that they're in, right? And because they are the brand for the state of Texas, right?
Yes, absolutely.
They will survive. Oklahoma, that's to be determined.
I agree. I think they're going to have to win. They're going to have to be like Final Four. I look at the SEC like if you're in that top four, you're in good company. If you're the Georgia, Bama, LSU, and whoever that
I would even say top six because if you're in top six, you can win it any year.
Yeah.
Well, I agree, but I feel like it's starting to.
Saban's gone, like, bro. It's going to be a whole new SEC.
Yeah, and but I just think Kirby he's turned into the new Saban to me. Like the guys he's getting, the way he's running the program, it's very. I'm not going to pay you the most money, but I'm going to put you in the NFL, and you're going to make a lot of plays, and that still holds weight when you're, winning a national championship 62-7. That holds weight to kids. And just always dominating, like that holds weight. That's what Saban was doing from early 2010s to when he retired. Like he was dominating, putting guys in the NFL. That's all kids. Ultimately, you can sell that to anybody. So I think Kirby's smart, but I think now that Saban's gone, there is a opening for somebody to kind of get that second, third. And I think that's where like the LSU's come up. I think Texas comes up. I think Auburn could sneak in if they – because they're paying a lot of
Auburn's heyday is gone.
No, I think so
right
too.
Now.
I think so too. I think
Alabama was too good for too long, and because of that, they're no longer looked at as a peer for Alabama. I think they've officially hit the second tier of the SEC.
Yeah, but I think it's that group, like you're saying, that can truly compete in the SEC. I think there's probably 4 or 5 realistic teams. I think it's Georgia, Alabama. I'm still iffy on them. LSU, Texas. I think those are really the 4 like that are. If we were to start the playoffs and I could predict right now, I think those would probably be the 4 that would be in if there was an SEC. I think it would be those 4. And I think they're
all right. Josh, do you have anything on this topic? Because we need to move away from the SEC.
Yeah, we were no. Let's get going.
All right. So Javon Boggs next on our list. Javon Boggs, we've all heard his name. 6 foot, 188 pounds, wide receiver from Cocoa, 4-star. Number 22 wide receiver, number 27 in Florida, 190th nationally, 29 offers. Mizzou, Arkansas, Colorado, Florida, Georgia, Louisville, Miami, Notre Dame, Ohio State, Ole Miss, Oregon, Penn State, Pitt, South Carolina, Texas, Texas A&M, USC, Washington, West Virginia U.
He plays receiver?
Plays receiver. We are in the hunt for Javon Boggs. Realistically in the hunt for Javon Boggs. Now it helps that he's got some of his Cocoa players on our sidelines currently and committed. But we're sitting in a pretty good place with him. I'm less confident about him, but we're sitting in a good place with him.
I'm always scared of guys that play receiver and get an Ohio State offer because they're churning him out left and right. At least we know he's good. Like he has to be good to play receiver and get an Ohio State offer. You're a good receiver.
At 6 foot 188, 100%, you got to be good.
Yeah,
you're not 6'2", 6'3".
Yeah. So you got to be good. So if we can, and I think again, you have to try to keep just try to play on the emotion of staying home. I think that matters to a lot of these Florida kids. In my opinion, I think they want to stay home.
State of Orlando, as we talked about, right? Hometown heroes and all that. So, I think the big thing is, how well do our guys that are currently committed continue to recruit? Because that's an underrated part of the recruiting process.
Yes, it is
once they get on campus, number one, and their experience there and how they feel around the team. But number two, player the recruits that we have that bring in, who are they? And, we haven't been talking about him a lot, but there's another kid from Georgia that kind of started this off, and Tavion Swint, who stayed committed for, I think, a year and a half now, 4-star running back, who's been really, really big in recruiting for us as well. So that's a huge draw. And if we can get these guys to stay in Orlando, the John Walkers of the world,
Braden Marshalls.
Braden Marshalls, that bodes really, really well for the state of UCF football. Malik Washington, let's talk about him again. We've mentioned him a few times. I wasn't as confident with Malik Washington, not just because of the offers that he has, but he's kind of flipped around favorites. But he was on campus again this weekend, and everybody was kind of like, and blah, blah, blah. And I mentioned last week Maryland. That's his last visit, which is his home state. He's from Severna Park. Let's talk a little bit about him. UCF is in the lead for him right now as it stands. He's done some interviews post-visit, and we are in the lead for him. He's 180th player nationally, 14th QB in the country, third player in Maryland. He's 6'4", 200 pounds. That's a good size quarterback, very much like KJ Jefferson minus like 60 pounds. He has offers from Maryland, Penn State, Hughes, who cares? Virginia Tech, Arkansas, BC, who cares? Colorado, Duke, Illinois, Oregon, Rutgers, who cares? Texas A&M, UCLA, Virginia, and West Virginia. So here's the thing about Malik Washington. If you go and watch his tape, which I have gone and watched his tape, very physical quarterback, someone who can hold up in the type of offense that we're trying to play, in the mold of what Gus Malzahn has been successful with, and someone who is durable, someone who can move and has got the size to be able to see over the line and be able to make some throws. He's a very good quarterback. And, when I heard, and when we talked about him last, we talked about Maryland being the last stop. I was like, usually whoever gets the final OV is the one who gets the kid. However, there's been some national writers coming out saying we are the leader for Malik Washington right now, which bodes really, really, really well for us. Anything you guys want to say about that?
If, like you said, he's from Maryland. I trust what a lot of these beat writers are saying because, again, I was a kid at that time. Luckily, my coach kind of
still a kid, Trey.
Yeah, I'm talking like getting recruited out of high school kid.
Josh is the grandpa on the show this week.
I know. It's how does that happen?
A lot of these kids, they talk too much. They will tell too much information to these guys, and so I trust what a lot of these guys. If they're telling
these these recruiting beat writers have been in their grills since they were freshmen, so they've developed relationships over.
Absolutely, and they say and kids say things even if they don't mean to, because I think just going through the process, you never want to play your hand early. You never want to be like, I just want to, zoom in and I'm strong here, because you kind of shy away other guys, because ultimately they have to recruit, and if they need a quarterback for this class and you don't seem like you're coming, they're going to go move on to the next quarterback. So if they're saying that he's leaning UCF, he probably is leaning UCF. I worry about Maryland just because he's from there, and it's the same hometown thing with us. I think the hometown team always has a chance if you recruit hard enough for these high-level guys. So it's interesting. I haven't watched his tape, but if you're saying he's a physical kid and can make the throws and shoot, Bring him on.
He's 6'4", 200 pounds going into his senior season.
Yeah, he's
that's a
big
good size QB.
Yeah, for sure.
All right. So Alan did prepare our notes this week. He did ask a question. He said, "Are we surprised more haven't committed yet?" I'll hold my thoughts, gentlemen. What do you guys think?
I'm not surprised. How do you get that envelope while you're on your visit if you're committed somewhere? No, I'm not surprised at all. I think it's going to keep happening where it's either silent or you haven't verbal to the coach, but you're probably going to go there. I feel like when you're talking about the significant amount of people who might have committed on Bounce House weekend but haven't said anything, let the kids have their fun, let them do what they're going to do. And to be honest, that's kind of, I know O'Leary was a little different. Like, you're not going in any other visits after you commit. You commit is commitment. I agree with that. I also agree that they're 17-year-olds, right?
Yeah.
And 16-year-olds. So they might not have these type of experiences in quite some time where they are not playing. Like, there's a difference between going to Austin on a recruiting visit and going to Austin to play a football game. Those are separate things. So if they go other places and they want to go there and they change their mind, that's just going to be how it is. You just have to trust your recruiting methods, trust the people that are on your team as coaches that have great relationships with their families and the student athletes. And do we still call them that anymore? But still, right. But regardless, you got to trust the process. That's my opinion on it. I'm not shocked at all.
Yeah, Trey, I'm not really either. Especially with the whole NIL thing, I think that is the wild card here. When I was recruiting, when I was getting recruited, you could kind of know where guys were leaning.
Bro, you were just happy with the cookie cake. We heard about that like a few episodes ago.
Yeah,
you were like, bro.
it was the recruiting methods that they went were just, if they were interested in you, they showed interest in you. If they weren't, because the best way to show interest was going somewhere. Right when I was getting recruited, that's when, I wouldn't say social media, but we used Twitter just more so to talk to coaches. It wasn't, obviously people tweeted, but it was more just to, communicate with coaches through DMs, things like that.
Let me say this about that. Back then, I had recruits tagging me and DMing me too.
Yeah, like it was a different way of method. Like if they wanted you, they would message you. Now it's like, well, if you want me, how much money can you offer me? And that can change so much more variable. Like, okay, we can give you this much money. And then they go to another coach. Well, they're, and it's more open. They're like, well, USC's giving me $300,000. Can you give me that? Yeah, we can give you that. And then they'll be like,
dude, it was open to, I think I told this story. There's a certain coach that I met while I was up here for spring meetings that they were having in Destin, and met him at a cigar bar, having a cigar. Yes, I'm a terrible person. I smoke cigars. Sorry, guys. So met him at a cigar bar, didn't know he was a coach. And he was talking to one of his coaches. I was like, are you involved in college football? He said, yeah. So it turns out he was a head coach, used to work for Nick Saban. And this was before all this. This is when this NIL stuff was happening. We were sitting there in the cigar bar, and I ended up having dinner with him and whatever. And I'm on a text. We wish each other Merry Christmas and all that stuff now, right? But he was on the phone when I first met him at the cigar bar. Okay, mama says she wants this, blah, blah, blah. Let me talk to the mama right now. Boom, 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 right? He says he wants this. Are we good with this? Blah, blah, blah. That was 2-3 years ago.
Oh, that's been happening forever.
Yeah, but this wasn't a Alabama type of program. This wasn't a program. No. This was a CUSA program.
Okay, for the listeners, players have been getting paid forever. Like, it's just now acceptable because they made it NIL. So now it's like, oh, you're allowed to get paid? We'll pay them. Players have been getting paid under the table, after games, before games, whatever. They've been finding ways. These boosters
on a boat.
People understand how much they care about their college football program or college basketball program. They will break the law. They will cheat to do it if they have to win a national championship. They will do that. It's been happening forever.
Let me add on to that real quick. People don't realize, and I've come to learn this living in the South and being involved with more business owners. It's not just about the caring about the football program. It's also status within the college itself, right? Because all these guys, these old money guys, or these guys that have been around, these programs that have been around, as they compete and become successful after they get out of college, when they're 40, 50, 60 years old, and more like the 50 and 60-year-olds, right? It's status, because these small towns don't have anything else to differentiate themselves. They don't have the Citrus Club that we have in Orlando, right?
Yeah.
The way that they separate themselves is by what they donate, how much they can give to players, to the program. It's a totally different mindset. And they all network, all the business owners, like, for example, in Auburn, all those business owners that went to Auburn, that's who they give their business to. They don't go outside of that area, right? They give it to the network of the people that went to Auburn as well. Doesn't matter what it is.
We're going to give some homework for the pod. If you guys want to fully understand what's really going on now, watch Friday Night Lights, the series. It is very similar to that. It's based out of Texas. It's a lot of what was going on.
Now you're showing your age, Trey.
Hey, man, I think it's a good show. But, like, that's what was happening then as far as what people do for money. And like you're talking about, Roger, they care about, and this is just high school level, like they care about the pride of their high school, their city. Like they care that much. They hire. They want everybody, oh, you play for this team? I want you to do this. I want you to do that. You know, and hey, we won a state championship. This is why I'm better than you. I donate all this money. Like that's pretty much a microcosm of what's going on in college football. So if you guys want to kind of understand really how crazy these people are, because I think it's 100 times that in college what that show is. And that, like, watch Friday Night Light. That will.
Let me put it to you this way. Ole Miss boosters used to spend, as terrible as they've been, they used to spend a ton of money on recruits. And so one of the things they did was they didn't take them to IOA, right? What they would do is they take them on a boat river cruise. They invite some ladies. And when you're on that cruise on international waters, it isn't really international waters, but whatever. You know, there were a lot of handshakes full of $100 bills. Let's just put it that way. A lot of them. They'd go on that boat where nobody else could see them, blah, blah, blah. Part of the recruiting trip, that would happen. And that's from someone that I know that's an Ole Miss booster, has been, his family's been a booster for a long time, etc. So anyway, back to the original question. Am I surprised they haven't committed yet? No. To add on to Josh's point, UCF right now is recruiting these kids in a way that says, hey, I'm here for you no matter whether you decide to sign on with us or not, which is the anti-George O'Leary way. And for that time and where we were, that was the right way to do it, right? Because we were in CUSA and, all that other stuff. But right now, that's the attitude that our players are, and that's why you're seeing them come back as transfers, okay? Yeah. Florida is a perfect example of this. Florida's in trouble. The University of Florida is in trouble from a recruiting standpoint. We've been talking about this the last couple seasons. But let me just put it to you this way. We are in a comfortable enough position where we tell them, hey, we want your silent commitment. We're going to keep it quiet. Y'all go take your recruiting trips. And if you decide to go somewhere else, you decide to go somewhere else. Just remember, we're here for you. Right? We're not here for you as a recruit. We're here for you. That's why you keep seeing these family posts and it feels like family. And I love Trovon. I love all this, that's why. Okay. Florida, on the other hand, we had a recruit that was supposed to be here this weekend, told him, you are not going to UCF if you're going to be a Florida commitment. That tells you where the difference is in the recruiting world in the state of Florida right now under Billy Napier.
Mm-hmm.
That's the difference. Okay. They were not comfortable. They already lost a couple of recruits to us. They were not comfortable with that recruit coming onto campus this past weekend because of that.
Yeah.
Now you tell me who's recruiting better. Is it the University of Florida or is it the University of Central Florida?
Oh yeah. I mean,
who's scared?
The thing about Florida is it's a lot of nostalgia now. A lot of people kind of recruit off of that Tim Tebow. Those years is where the swamp was the swamp. You know, I don't think it's anything like
the
that.
The problem is Billy Napier. Do you remember what we talked about when we hired Billy Napier? He ran everybody off. He ran everybody off in Louisiana when he was there. The high school coaches hated him, right?
Oh, yeah.
See, I don't think it's – I think that is endemic of the other issues that are up there in that school up north, right? I think it's endemic of the decisions they make to put those people in place, the NIL and the other collectives that are now out in the open that are kind of battling each other. I think that is a symptom of a larger issue. And listen, you know, Gasparilla Bowl, I was there. It was a fun night.
They're getting sued right now.
The swamp. If we beat them in the swamp, he shouldn't be making it back to his house.
He's not. He won't. If he loses that game, he's not going to make it back.
I feel like we have no reason losing that game. And I'll tell you this: I'm going to be at that game with UF boosters, and I'm talking about like sweet boosters, right?
Can you get me out of the 300s there, Rogers?
Now, I'm not going to lie. They have a quarterback that's a freshman. I don't know if he's going to be playing when we get to him, but he is a monster. I've seen him live. I think he should start. I don't know if he's going to start, but he needs to start. I think if we play him, it'll be problems. I think if we play I forgot the kid's name. There's another quarterback I think he's a senior. I fully have the confidence we should beat Florida if he's playing. If we're playing the freshman, I think we can still beat him. I think he's a lot like McKenzie in the sense that
we should
he could come out and beat him by himself,
or
he could beat him. What'd you say?
I said we should beat Florida no matter what.
No,
if you look at roster to roster, we 100% should beat Florida. I do not want to be tucking my tail with a bunch of bull gators. And the reason, by the way, is because these bull gators are people that I'm doing in business with, right? And so let me just put it this way: humble brag.
You do think
humble brag. I'm going to be tailgating. I'm going to be tailgating next to the AD's tent. So let's just put it that way.
No. No, you're mistaken. We will be tailgating next to the AD's tent.
Josh, I'd be more than happy to have you come over and have some fireball shots with me.
Yeah,
I'm just saying.
That'd probably be you'll see a completely different Josh. Listen, the last time I was,
I've seen you lit. I've seen you lit.
The last time I was there, it was a 42-0 beatdown where the students had T-shirts that I can't say on this podcast because they were that graphic. Anything has to be better than that. And Trey, I know I stepped on you over there.
No, I think I don't know. Roger's just saying we should beat them no matter what. The roster's just better. To me, I think if we lose that game, how do you feel coming in on the next Monday?
Like, I want to qualify that. Are we getting beat 42-0? Are they pulling off a trick play to just barely escape with a win?
Okay.
If we lose to UF, just like OSU, I lambasted OSU last week for their baseball performance. If we lose to UF, right, Gus Malzahn's going to hear the wrath of UCF because this season has been hyped as the season, right?
Okay, so hey, we're getting back to what I want to talk about. What is this hype? Like, is this just like within the program hype? I don't know. I'm asking you.
It's more than that, and you'll see more of it as we go along. Everybody that we brought in all the transfers, all the turnover, all of that stuff is for that. And I can tell you right now, the players that we have, and this brings me to the next topic we were going to talk about. CBS came out today and said we have the number 5 ranked backfield in the country. And I think it could be better. Okay. The 2 players that we have coming in are 1,400-yard rushers. We've had problems in the red zone. I think that's resolved this year. And those 2 1,400-yard rushers don't include Miles Montgomery, which if you watched us play Cincinnati last year and watched Miles Montgomery last year, that guy is a beast. Okay. So between him,
so what are you telling me right now? What are you telling me right now?
I'm not telling you anything. We'll save that for a podcast after fall camp. But what I'm telling you right now is expectations within the program, outside of the program, are high. This is
how many? What's the playoff? There's a 12-team playoff. Correct.
This is Gus saying this is the first year ever that I finished under 500. We're all in. Gus was pissed off last year. Like, and I know I'm being blatant with this, but behind the scenes program stuff, Gus was not, he shows this aw shucks, whatever, smothered and covered, whatever coach speak Gus Malzahn. I can tell you this for a fact. Night Nation should take heart. Gus Malzahn is a former player. He's a coach, and he's about as competitive as they come. And I can tell you this right now, he was not happy last year. It besmirched his legacy. Up to that point, he was the only coach that had gone that long without a losing season. And we didn't have a losing regular season, but losing that bowl game and losing the bowl game the way that we did and to whom we did, Georgia Tech, okay, he said enough. So for better or worse, however it turns out, he has done everything that he can for us to win this year.
Win this year? So
championship.
Big
12 championship. Big 12 championship.
So what you're saying, Roger, I want to just everybody to hear. The expectation is to be in the college football playoff in 2020, like this season. That is
100%. That's everybody within the program's expectations.
Okay. I mean, I just want to know because I've been picking and prodding and trying to send out feelers every time I'm on and just see where we're thinking about it. So, okay, I think so too. I'm not going to lie. I think
Trey, what I would suggest, what I want you to do, I'm not even going to suggest it. What I want you to do is, I know that you're still in contact with people within the program yourself, right?
Yep.
And I know that you go on sidelines during the games.
Yep.
Put your ear out. And those first few games when we're out there, whenever you end up showing up for a game and you're on the sideline.
The first game I'm going to be at is Colorado. I think that's
what I want to know. Okay, so you got those field passes. When am I coming up on the field? I'm just saying. Like, I could get a media pass, but I don't want to get a media pass.
Listen, they've been big timing us, man. That's a whole another conversation for another day.
All right. Well, we'll have that offline. But anyway, the point is that I'm trying to make is I want you to take the same litmus test that we talked about last year, which was, okay, it's one thing if Gus wants that, what are the players doing?
Okay.
That's what I want to know. All right. So, we kind of talked. Alan asked, if we aren't ranked next year, is the season a disappointment? Yes. I mean, we just talked about expectations, right? 100%. Yep. I would expect if we win at Florida, we may be ranked after that week. Okay. I don't have a lot of faith in Deion Sanders in Colorado. I'm just going to put it that way. That should be a dub. So the problem last year was defense and holding on to big leads. We went into the fourth quarter with, I think, 5 double-digit leads and lost. So, the big question mark for me is kicking this year because I think we lost 3 or 4 games by less than 3. So, and our kicker was kicking 50%. So, You tell me. All right.
When's our so Colorado? You think is our first like litmus test kind of game? We'll see where we're at. Oh no, we play at TCU. Never mind.
Yeah. There's a couple. Yeah,
we could be going into that stretch. We could be 3-0 going into Colorado. I think Colorado could be 4-0. If we beat Colorado and they're ranked, we will be ranked next week.
I don't think Colorado will be 4-0. I don't believe in Deion Sanders.
Let me see. They play North Dakota State, Nebraska, Colorado State, Baylor.
Yeah, Baylor's down with Dave Aranda. I mean, if he loses to Colorado, he might not be there.
Yeah,
but hey,
I think it's good for us.
That's a prime time game, by the way. TCU is a prime time game, and so is that one. And that should tell you where Fox expects us to be. The national media expects us to be a contender this year for the Big 12 championship.
We better be contending.
Yeah, so you better get hype, Trey, and you better whip them boys into shape. Give them one of those Shaquem speeches on the sideline if you need to. I'm just saying. All right. You better get them into the living and getting a blow up mattress in the
I can't make them do that. You gotta have that or you can't.
All right. So let's go ahead and pivot. And I just realized I didn't put the UCF football banner up the whole time. This is why we need Nobra on the podcast to keep us straight. Let's talk a little Hoopin N Hollerin. So on the recruiting vein, we've been talking about basketball a little bit. We've been talking about hoops a little bit. Hey, we've been teasing this for a while. Number 1 ranked center from the 2025 class, Moustapha Thiam, has reclassified for 2024 as expected, officially signed his NLI. He is ours. So number 1 ranked center in the country signed with UCF, will be on UCF's roster next season. He is 7'1", 200 pounds. Now, we brought in a lot of scoring. We talked about the bigs. It'll be interesting to see how Johnny Dawkins puts it all together. But this is a big deal. This is a huge deal. We've done really well with bigs. I don't expect Moustapha to play right away. I expect him to play maybe mid-season or whatever. Coming in high school is 7'1". It's if you're 7'1" in high school, you're dominating pretty much everybody, right?
I forget the kids. Who was the kid that just got drafted that we had a lot? Was he a lottery pick? He was a lottery pick.
That was 2 years ago.
Yeah, who was that? What was his name?
His brother's on the.
Yeah, his brother plays.
Taylor Hendricks.
Taylor Hendricks. Yes.
Yeah. He's playing for Minnesota.
Yeah. Did he? What was his freshman year like? What was his freshman? I think it was Utah. I mean, I know he was a beast, but
it was good. But he could have used a couple. He could have used another year. But raw talent, he's doing really good.
Just off of did he play a lot his freshman from the beginning, or was it
he did.
Utah Jazz.
He played a lot from the beginning.
He played in UCF. He played pretty much straight from the jump. Yeah, but
I'm not gonna lie. I don't think this kid might play from the jump.
And
I kind of feel like that might be the same too. It depends on how much we have of the easier schedule in the beginning, which should be easier because the Big 12 is the beast.
Did you see the tournament we just signed up for?
I didn't, which makes me feel like it's not going to be Charlotte that we're going to be playing against. No offense, Charlotte. Sorry, Charlotte. 49ers, right? I think I got that right.
Niners.
Yeah, no.
Okay, now I got to check that out. No, I did not.
Yeah, I need to bring it up and which one it is, but I looked at it and it is, I guess would this be considered 2024-25, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So I can't remember what the name of the tournament is, but I mean, it's the best of the best. It's an invitation.
Okay Which one is
It's
it?
I'm looking it up. I'm trying to find it.
Tell me Maui Invitational. I'm gonna.
Oh,
that's gonna be a problem.
that's gonna be a big problem.
Well,
at least we'll know where we're at early though.
Listen, you know what was amazing? I was in Maui while
Greenbrier.
What was it?
The Greenbrier.
Greenbrier. That sounds less menacing, but
it's in West Virginia, the Greenbrier Hotel. For those that don't know, we used to, that's where we secretly were going to put all of our Congress people if we had a nuclear war.
This, yeah.
So, what's that?
You said secretly. I mean, shoot, if you know about it, that must not that big.
Well,
that big
no, they're done with
Wisconsin. Great. Pittsburgh. Is this really
LSU, UCF? Hold on, let me see where the teams are. Their website's terrible, by the way.
I know.
Greenbrier tip-off, you need to hit me up for a website if you're listening to this, which I know you're not, but that's okay.
So the Mountain Division is Wisconsin, Pitt, UCF, LSU, and the River Division is, I can't see that behind the graphics. I think it's Tennessee Tech, University of Texas, Rio Grande Valley, VMI, and some pirate dude. I don't know who that is. The Charleston Southern. Thank you. The top of that's tough. I don't even know if I'll be in. I don't know if I'll be even in the country for it. I'd love to go to this. I love West Virginia and going to the Gauley Rivers and whitewater rafting down there. It's a very vivid memory when I was at UCF going there. So we get to face like perennial teams. That's great. But that actually is early because that's November 22nd, 23rd, 24th. That is pretty early. So we need to be playing like Flagler College a few times before we get there.
All right. So here are the teams. Hold on.
Didn't I just
LSU, Wisconsin.
That's amazing.
There's another one. I'm going to have to. No, I'm serious. There is. Huh?
I already said this.
He said the teams already.
No, there's another one that we're participating in too because it was ridiculous. I mean, the teams that we're having, but either way, those teams
are still
they're no joke.
Oh yeah.
So
it's
like it can be good.
Yeah, it's going to be an early test for us, which will be good because I'm going to be interested to see how fast this team gels and what Johnny uses. I honestly think that he's going to go Houston with this squad. He's got a lot of 3/4s that have good shooting percentages. So this is no joke. What's that?
Because what Ben, at least just from what I remember like all the recruits and the guys that we were getting committed were like wings and forwards. It was like we don't have a center, and
they're all averaging 16 points per game, right?
Oh yeah,
we're not picking up transfers that aren't scorers. These guys are all scorers. They all have our 3-point percentage. Our 3-point shooting was huge, huge deficit last year. All of the guys that we picked up that are wings, like that are threes or fours, they're all shooters. So 35, 38, 41% from the three. It'll be really interesting. It'll really be interesting to see how Thiam fits into this, right? And defensively what we do. And I expect us to be a lot more like Houston. I expect us to be tough. I expect us to be fast. I expect us to be subbing a lot. I expect us to not play half-court offense. which is a continuation of what we were doing last year. And you got to remember, DJ, he shot, I think it was somewhere 38, 39% last year, right? Mm-hmm. And then our other big shooter who didn't do as well last year, if he picks it back up and goes back to his 38 to 41%, this team's going to have, I have a feeling we're going to have a lot of 3-point. We're guard heavy, which means we're going to push the ball up court in transition. We're going to be playing that defense, and we've got a good mix of a lot of experienced guys. These aren't young bucks. These are all experienced guys that are coming in. So it'll be really interesting. But this Moustapha Thiam coming in and reclassifying is
starting center
for UCF basketball.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, there's it has to be. It just has to.
He's got to start.
And I haven't watched tape, but I'll tell you, if he can run out, if he's that tall and fast,
he's athletic.
It seems like he is. Like, see, that's going to be the difference. Like, I love Taco Fall, still do. He was a great center for us. He did some amazing things between the different coaches that coached him. And after he got towards the NBA, he was starting to hang on when he's going up and down the court. I mean, if you had Taco Fall, if you have Taco Fall that could run up and down the court and dribble a few things, you get Wemby, right? Like you see what that can do. And so if he can hang with everyone else when Mikey's running out, it's going to be fun.
Mikey doesn't even have to play. I'm just to say this. No, I'm serious. Whoa. The quality of the players that we've brought in from a guard position standpoint, we've got some big East players.
I haven't watched them, but I don't know if
here's the problem with Mikey Williams. He's been out. He hasn't been playing for a year and a half. It's going to take a minute for him.
I agree, except there are things. Okay, when you have a CEO that's doing well for themselves, that can get ripped or fit right quickly because they have the money and the resources to do that. That's Mikey. He's not just another 18, 19.
He's different.
He has funding and backing. He posted some.
You saw that where he was working out?
Yeah. That's what I'm saying. Like he has the resources beyond the traditional young person. I mean, young person who has well-to-do parents, more resources. I think he can. If the goal is probably the NBA or at minimum to gather a following enough to hopefully make him not need a job. I'm hoping that for him.
Listen, he's either going to be in the NBA or he's going to be destroying.
And either is fine. And everyone forgets about Delahaye that his videos were good, but he was a solid kicker at UCF. He absolutely was. And man,
Delahaye is a good kicker. I'm sorry to interrupt. Delahaye was a good kicker.
No, you're not.
Mikey Williams is like he's a different type of talent. Like Delahaye wasn't oh my gosh, this is a NFL kicker. Like he was good. Mikey Williams, if everything works out with him, he could be a lottery. Like he could be a lottery pick. I don't know. And I don't know the other guys that have transferred in. I don't know if they're lottery picks.
His boy that's just as good as he is was playing. Huh?
Is there another guy from Memphis that he was playing with?
Yeah.
Yes.
With the JJ?
Yeah, he's a beast too.
We've got three guys. We've got 3 of Penny's recruits from the past 2 years. Let me just put it to you that way.
Somebody in our group chat called this last chance UCF.
Yeah.
Last chance you.
Listen, see, this is the thing that Johnny Dawkins has the political basketball capital. Let me put it that way.
Yes.
That people trust him and trust that they will do good things with the kids that are around him to make them succeed. And I don't think a lot of this happens without NIL. And Dawkins, like I do now. I want to see the proof in the pudding. You have the talent around you. I want to see what can happen with that if they buy in, and I feel like they're going to. And he does build up people. Let's see if it actually comes together in the way he wants to.
I think he has the ability to manage. I think he has the ability to manage the personalities. What's interesting is last year and the year before, you saw UCF now as part of the Big 12 starting to be a basketball game that celebrities started going to. I think that's going to be on another level this year. So if you're in the arena, expect to see some folks courtside that that are going to be big deals. So this could be exactly what Johnny Dawkins needed, right? And this is partly the Big 12, but let's see if he can coach them. I mean, if anybody can,
I feel like he can. Yeah,
I feel like he can. I feel like Samson can. I think Johnny Dawkins just does it in a different way.
Do you think say I know I keep saying Elite Eight. Like if we went on an Elite Eight run, what do you think that does for the program? Like just trajectory wise.
Big 12, Elite Eight.
Think about it. The football part, but like I'm not as familiar with basketball. But like, so like, what would the elite run do for us?
Look at Gonzaga. Yeah. Look at Houston. Houston was in the trash. SMU the same way until Samson came in and started stripping. Right. So have you not watched Houston basketball games?
Oh, I understand. So, Kirby, I understand.
All right. So, like, until Samson came in, Houston, they had Phi Slamma-Jamma, right? Olajuwon and all that stuff. But that program died. That basketball program died for probably 20, 25 years, right? Samson comes in. Look how fast and look at what people think of Houston basketball now. And he's been doing it for what, 4 or 5 years? You imagine UCF basketball making an Elite Eight. And think about how much you remember when we played Zion, when Duke and we played Duke and Zion. Remember, that was probably 3 or 4 years worth of hype that came off of that. If we can make an Elite Eight the next year in recruiting, especially now that we have St. John's guy.
Yeah.
It's gonna be ridiculous. I can tell you this: that may be why you heard the Richard Pitino rumors in the offseason.
100% has to
make sense. Because I mean,
I'm saying that as a maybe with being more than a maybe.
Yeah. Well, I will say. So, what an elite! I agree with everything Roger would say. Like, let's get to the second week. Like, that's.
I don't think this is an Elite Eight team this year.
Let's get in the tournament. A, B. Let's win a game again. B, and let's not get the refs basically pulling a fast one on us, where we should have been in the Sweet 16 the last time we played against.
Now, I will say this about that: it will be interesting to see how the reffing is this year. We got a personality like Johnny or not Johnny Dawkins. We got a personality like Mikey Williams. Yeah. And we got someone like Mr. Yormark, who's going to want to promote this as much as possible, especially with the Big 12 talking about separating that basketball contract. You start putting people with 3 million YouTube viewers on there, and then some of the other players that are coming on here with him. I would not be surprised if we have more calls go our way this year. And hey, the basketball refs are being reviewed this year, where they weren't before. So I wouldn't be surprised and for those of you that aren't watching on YouTube, that's air quotes. I wouldn't be surprised if those Big 12 Yormark refs are a little bit more friendly to UCF this year. I'm just saying.
It would be nice. We can take, there were some games last year. And usually it happens both ways. Like the Houston game, there was like 3 or 4 calls that were just really bad. I'll be honest, there was about 2 that were just looked way off on our side too. But it's life. That's life. It's basketball. And truthfully, I want humans still doing that. I don't want tech or AI or whatever. Just, video review, cool, but
that's right. We can buy them. All right. With that being said, let's go ahead and pivot to UCF Baseball. All right, so UCF Baseball. We've been talking a little bit about recruiting, and obviously in that vein, we're going to talk a little bit about UCF Baseball. UCF, last week, I think we had 7 guys, and a lot of them were pitchers that we were talking about. We've got some familiar faces that are coming to UCF. We played Jacksonville University, so Rich Wallace got a real good look at some of the pitchers there. And we did pick up on transfer Dakota Stone and Isaac Williams as pitchers. They're both pitchers. And here's something interesting. St. Leo pitcher Russell Sandifer? I don't know. We'll figure it out once he gets on. But I'm going to call him Sandy Jr. Because we already have one Sandy. But St. Leo, guys, do you guys remember why St. Leo is important? Trey, do you know why St. Leo is important? Let me ask Trey. We're both older. Why is St. Leo important to UCF Sports?
No.
This is my fun fact of the week. How about that?
Yeah. Fun fact, my father-in-law went there. So
I don't know.
Do you know why? St. Leo was the first opponent for UCF football.
Yeah. Yep.
So interesting that we do have some St. Leo roots, and we're bringing in a St. Leo pitcher. I'm back in my Georgia. I was just in Georgia a couple, last weekend. So I'm back in the Peach State there for a minute. But yeah, a St. Leo pitcher. By the way, we did win that game against St. Leo in the mud. There is video of it, which is crazy because many of the football schools do not have video of their first game. It was a rain-soaked field that looked like someone's backyard, and we did win that game. So for UCF football, we do have a connection with UCF baseball this year. One other thing I wanted to mention real quick is, the College World Series. I mean, we talked about UCF's performance in the Big 12 championship. By all accounts, again, I want to say that I feel like it was a successful season. All things considered, I do feel like Rich is gonna maybe upgrade some areas. We did see some folks. Andrew Estrella. I don't know if you noticed that, had a red hot start to the season. Did not get as much playing time. He did transfer out, or Estrella, if you want to say it the proper way. He unfortunately transferred out, but that leaves the door open for others. He had some playing time that went away. The World Series of Baseball, I just saw that NC State is going to be playing in the championship game. First time in 9 seasons that a Big 12 representative will not be playing. And I just want to say this again. I'm really angry at Oklahoma State.
Oh, yeah.
For losing to UF 2 games in a row in their regional so that UF can advance. And to add on to that, that was the 3rd game in the row that they had to win. Oklahoma State, I was talking to their insider. They were as befuddled as I was. And so OSU, I am mad at you. And I will be mad at you until next baseball season.
Oh, it's boo. Oh, it's
boo. Boo. Not boom, but boo.
Yeah.
All right. One last topic before we get to Josh's sometimes funny fact of the week, although I think that St. Leo's random fact that I just pulled out of my knowledge qualifies for a fun fact of the week. Top 4 ACC pickups. So this is something we talked about on the College Huddle. So if you haven't listened to it yet, it just dropped today. I gave my opinions. So if you guys had your choice, assuming that FSU is gone, Clemson's gone, UNC's gone, and Virginia's gone, who are your 4 pickups that you would like to see from the ACC? I'm going to start with Trey. Who are the 4 schools that you would pick up?
I'd probably take Miami as a travel partner for UCF. You said no Florida State.
Florida
Clemson.
State, Clemson, Virginia, and UNC all gone.
Okay, I'd take Duke for basketball. I don't know if we would. This is just what I would take. Duke, Miami, ACC. Probably Louisville. And who's another one? Louisville, Kentucky. Maybe a NC State, maybe a Virginia Tech. One of those. That's what I'm thinking right now. That would
all
be
right,
it.
if you had to choose Virginia Tech or NC State.
Probably NC State.
All right.
Josh? NC State, Duke, Louisville, Miami.
Josh?
Well, do we get Notre Dame? Is that an option? Is that
no?
Okay, I was going to say if their option, I'll take it.
No. They're not going to be continuing the Catholics versus the convicts in the Big 12.
Okay,
so that was pretty nice. I like that.
Let me pull that thread a second. Then I'll give you my 4. ACC is left with Wake Forest and company. Does Notre Dame align with the Big 12, the Big 10? What happens to Notre Dame?
They probably would stay independent, but I think they'd align with the Big 10.
Yeah, if they had their druthers, that would be a step for the Big 10, and the Big 10 would be all over it because they're still hoping that they would join.
That's fair. Yeah. That's fair. Okay, so I would say as much as
they're too big time for the Big 12.
The thing is, so Miami's interesting because why give them a life raft, right? But it's part of me still.
So don't think about this as the UCF perspective. Think about this from the Big 12's perspective.
You kind of have to take University of Miami. Of Ohio. No. No, I think you have to because if you want to pair us with something in the region, Miami versus Georgia Tech, you probably go in Miami. Right. So you kind of have to do that. Agree with NC State. I don't know if any of you are familiar with NC State fans and that they're a pretty rabid fan base. I was part of a fraternity who had chapters at almost all these colleges, and we went to Blacksburg for a annual meeting.
Blacksburg is Virginia Tech.
Virginia Tech.
I know that. So I was talking about both Virginia Tech and NC State, very, very rabid fan bases. Yes, I know where Blacksburg is. So Miami, yes. NC State, yes.
I'm going to object.
I know you're going to object.
No, not to the teams that you chose, but the way that you phrase that. I'm just going to object to that. Okay, go ahead, Josh.
Miami, I think you have to go with Miami. I agree with NC State from my experiences there. Louisville probably has to be some of that connection
for the West Virginia. I think that's what it's for.
Yeah, right. Well, if you want for West Virginia, EAP, right? You might have to take Pitt, but I don't know.
Well, it wasn't EAP because that would be something else. It would be ESP. Oh gosh, Josh, what are you doing to us?
No, it's fun. It's fun.
That's a B.
I'm just gonna go Miami, Louisville, Pitt, NC State. I actually, no, forget Pitt, Georgia Tech, done. ESP.
Wow. Do you want to know what my 4 were?
Not Wake Forest, Boston College. Sure.
So Wake Forest, Tommy Castellano. No, just kidding. No, my 4 were Miami. I think that's a consensus pick for all of us. I think you have to take Miami. There's no choice there.
Sad.
Yes, they're living in the off season. And yes, they're living in their past, but they're still a brand, and that would be great to have them as rivals. And remember, the Cows wanted to replace us with Miami, so that would be just desserts for that as well. Moo-hoo. So I think Miami number 1. I think Virginia Tech number 2. I think NC State number 3, and I think Louisville number 4.
You can't.
It's interesting because when we were talking about it on the College Huddle earlier today, they see like the old school leftover 8 Big 12 view of things. Very high on Duke.
Yeah.
For the basketball aspect of primarily.
That's why I took it.
Football isn't bad. And you need people at the bottom.
It's been better recently, but historically bad.
Oh, no, I'm with you. And if you're talking, like, it's the reason why Stanford can make sense. Like, Stanford is darn near. No, I'm not saying for the Big 12. I'm just saying they are really, really good at 20
Olympic sports.
At so many sports. So I get that. I get the Duke point, and honestly, I don't think that's a bad pick either. I mean, between they're just, there's not a lot of. Well, I want to say that's a good question. I wonder how many. I never thought of this. How many private versus public schools there currently are in the Big 12? That was also kind of something in my mind.
TCU private? I think
TCU, Baylor's private. TCU's private, Baylor's private, BYU's private.
But we're all that's the rest. That's it. Everything else is public, and that's kind of why the Duke is an interesting thing, because everyone else is a public school pretty much.
Yeah. The problem with Duke is they have a 35,000 person stadium and they don't fill it.
Mm-hmm.
So we talk about Miami's attendance woes. No, but let's think about it from the Big 12's perspective. We've got a contract coming up in 5 years. Do you and this is a point that I brought up when we talked about on the College Huddle. So make sure you watch this episode, right? Although I was tired, my AC, just personal note, my AC was broken today. I got 4 hours of sleep. I fixed it, thank goodness. So I'm back to 73 degrees and comfortable. But I was 4 hours of sleep, so I wasn't my normal jovial, energetic self. That being said, my point with Duke was the same when he brought it up, which is small private school, football has not been relevant, and football drives the bus. Even if we separate basketball from football, and yes, I think that is a huge asset for the Big 12 if we can continue our basketball dominance, right? Especially going forward. That's what separates us from the ACC. The ACC in Tobacco Road was that basketball program. If we had our basketball conference, if they were what they were in the 80s and 90s and early 2000s, now it may be the Big 12 being picked apart, not the ACC, but they're not, right? They don't have enough football brands. We have the anti-Big East. That's what we have right now. We have football brands that are adding basketball, not basketball brands that are adding football. So even if you separate, and yes, Duke is tempting because they are blue blood and they get ratings when they play during basketball season, they do not get the same amount as what football does and are not as worthwhile for the ESPNs and Foxes of the world as because remember, ESPN at that time, when they were relevant, when the ACC and the Big East were relevant, they were a basketball first TV network. That was their claim to fame. They had Big East basketball. They promoted Big East basketball. They made their money off of Big East basketball. That's not today's reality. So small private school, their baseball stadium is smaller than ours. Their football stadium is smaller than ours, and they don't fill it. They've done okay in football, but they've never really separated themselves. Yes, they are blue blood. Yes, I love Duke basketball. Let's see what happens after Calipari, because remember, Calipari just retired. They didn't make it big until Calipari got there with a few years. With Johnny Dawkins, by the way. He was the one who started that movement to elevate them to who they are today. Are they going to be Bama without Saban in basketball? I don't think Duke is a good bet. I think Virginia Tech, 65,000 strong, no matter what. I think NC State, great fan base, no matter what, gives us a footprint in North Carolina. I don't want 2 North Carolina programs. Louisville have been consistently good in football and relevant and fill their Papa John Stadium and have the biggest basketball arena in the NCAA and fill it. And it's the KFC Yum Center, by the way. So you've got the Papa John's Fast Food Center and the KFC Yum Center, which is also fast food. So, my family hails from Kentucky a few generations back. So they eat real good down there. But I feel like, and then you have to have Miami. I think I think of the football programs left, yes, it's 2 Florida programs, but I think Miami is still relevant enough and has enough football cachet that they make sense to have as a 4th program. So those are my 4.
If we were doing football, I would change. I would take Duke out. Like if
we're not, we're talking about programs, and if you still feel strongly with your programs, that's fine.
Ultimately, the way you just explained it was most of it was football driven. You talked about the football part of all of them.
That's where money and relevancy comes from.
Yeah, so that's what I'm saying. If it wasn't football driven, I would take Duke out for that reason because I don't think they draw eyes to football. I was just thinking more, evenly split, which is naive. I was thinking if you could get a basketball in Duke and Kentucky or in Louisville, I think that's great.
That's Louisville, right? And that's where I think we get the basketball brand to help. Yeah. Help the Big 12. I don't, obviously Louisville hasn't performed since Calipari kind of blew up there. But I will say this, they still fill their arena. They have historic rivalries with UC, less so with West Virginia. I don't want Pitt. I'm just going to put that out there. I don't want Pitt. Let them die on the vine. Not just because of what our recent history with them, but their basketball program hasn't been great. So at the end of the day, let Pitt die. Yeah. ESP. Not EAP, Josh.
Like you said, if it's football driven, I would probably take Duke out and put in, whatever is the best football option. I don't think that 4th one kind of moves the needle in a sense. In my opinion, I think it's just a better option than Duke. I think the ones like you said, I think we're all in agreement. You kind of have to take Miami. I think from us as UCF fans, we look at Miami differently. I know a lot of people outside of it there's still a little nostalgia to them. We kind of know the truth about them, and I think we are more in reality with it. There's still a nostalgia about especially down here, but just like outside of the state, people still have I don't know what it is. It's like a nostalgia about them. So I think they're probably the unanimous number 1 that you have to take. And I think the other ones, like you said, I think Louisville and NC State are pretty firm. I think that 4th one is, I don't know. I don't think that moves the needle, but I think you do get 4.
All right. So with that being said, let's go ahead and pivot again. Pivot. Okay. It's getting late in the evening. Josh is not as enthusiastic as he normally is.
I'm literally typing because I'm hearing feedback. Maybe it's just me. It's all good.
It's not you. I don't know why that's happening all of a sudden. Josh, why don't you take us into your sometimes oxymoron? Oh no, wait. Sometimes funny fact of the week.
Well, that's the What Alan's not here. So this is an easy one. What former UCF women's track and field athlete was a USA Championship silver medalist and had her time at UCF earned the best finish of a night in any event of the NCAA Outdoor Championship?
I have no idea. I'm not versed in women's track at all.
Really? You have
besides, I forgot the girl that's like been a freaking beast. Like that's the only one.
Renaya Jones.
Yeah,
that we just talked about earlier on the podcast.
Yeah. Otherwise, I'm not super duper versed in that.
Okay.
But
interesting.
Google is first.
So, Josh, why don't you give me that question again?
Okay, so what former women's UCF? Let's run it back. What former UCF women's track and field athlete was a USA championship silver medalist, and at her time at UCF earned the best finish by a night in any event of the NCAA Outdoor Championship?
Oh, this was 2013.
You are correct, sir.
I can't
What
remember the
was
name
her
though.
name?
Octavia something.
You got one. I'll take one because Octavius is that's a name that you don't forget. It's like my daughter's name. It's pretty unique. Octavius Freeman. She was the UCF championship 100-meter silver medalist. She qualified. She clocked a 10.87 1.8 when aided in the championship final for the number 2 all time, and all dates back to the collegiate best in order to qualify for the World Championship. She was an indoor bronze medalist and an All-American 2 times in the 60 and the 200. She was an NCAA outdoor silver medalist in the 100, the 4x100 relay, and a 3-time outdoor first-team All-American 4x100 relay, 100 and 200. She was a beast. Absolutely was a beast.
All right. Thank you for that. I couldn't remember her last name. Sorry, it was 2013. It was a little bit ago.
Yeah, but you pulled out. I mean, that's. I'll give you applause. That's pretty darn good. I'm not gonna lie.
All right, Josh. Let's go ahead and pivot again to the quick update on other UCF sports that Alan does not watch.
I mean, let's be honest here. Do we really have any? Yes, we do. We haven't. What was? No, I'm not going to do that to you, Trey. Track. Do you know all the 3 women in track?
The thing that Trey could not run.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. Track. Yes. If Renaya is placing 3rd in her competition 100-meter hurdles and is All-American at 12.59, Trey, I'm saying he can get it done in maybe 18 seconds and hit.
Right. I'm doing it faster than that.
Oh, you're hitting a hurdle. That's the problem.
No,
Renaya.
What could you do the hurdles in 100-meter hurdles? Have you ever ran the hurdles before?
I did the hurdles. I did 300 hurdles in high school.
Okay. I'll give you more like a.
Nah, I probably would take me 15, 16 seconds though.
Yeah,
not too much. 18 is a stretch, but
12:59, bro. She would have been. She would have been dusting you 3 seconds later. I mean, if I'm thinking about that in a quarter-mile pass to put it in car terms, that's 1 Mississippi, 2 Mississippi, 3 Mississippi, bro.
Yeah, she's dusting me for sure. If she can do a
12.59
in the hurdles, that's fast. She's flying.
Yeah. And so for 3rd place, and the woman who won the contest was expected to win the contest, and she was not that far off. It was, I believe, personal best too, on top of everything else. Ashira Collins, she secured a 15th place finish in the triple jump with her 13.07 meter mark, becoming the first knight in program history to garner All-American honors in both the long and triple jump. Kaya Williams secured All-American honorable mention in the 400 meters Thursday night as well. We were 36th overall in the meet. So that's stuff that Alan doesn't know about, and honestly, Trey doesn't either. So that's okay.
Nope.
Well, let me say this real quick. The 12:59, second place was 12:57. So, and that's in the NCAA championships amongst all of the NCAA, including places like Stanford that have 20 or so. Sorry, we got a little message going. I should have put that up on here. But anyway, that's huge, considering that you've got teams like Stanford, all the PAC schools that have like 24 to 30 Olympic sports.
Former PAC schools. This is the end of the Pac-12. Well, because when they left
officially, this is the death knell of the Pac-12. This is it.
Tracks over, and Oregon State got kicked out of the baseball World Series. Did get to the College World Series. So
tracks over, Pac's over.
Track done, pack done. There you go.
All right. Josh, do you want to take us out?
Do I?
You usually talk and babble randomly at the end of episodes.
Usually you do a like, subscribe, and go Knights charge on.
That's true. Okay. All right. Yep. You're right. I messed that up. I'm sorry. Nobra was not here this week, so it completely messed me up. All right, guys, remember, if you've made it this long, follow, like, subscribe, tell your friends, scream it at the top of your lungs. Go Knights and
charge on.
Now, there's some really interesting things in the show notes. Should you want to tease that at all, or are we just going to cut it